First of all, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate having you all here. I know it's after lunch, so I'll try my best to make sure that you don't fall asleep halfway through the presentation. You have been in the morning session, and now you know what are all the advancements that are happening, especially with AMD on A plus A plus A, right? When we start looking at the whole AI deployments, what we have seen is it's quite a bit different from the traditional compute that we are all used to. Many of you are already there because you are either data center builder, or you are cloud service provider, or you're a developer, or you're an end user. Pretty much when you start taking a look at what we are doing with AI, it is nothing like what it was before. And how do we make sure that that experience can get better in deploying, managing, and servicing this infrastructure? That's basically the goal that I'm trying to hit. And that's what we are trying to do from Supermicro's point of view, and understanding and working with all the ecosystem partners to see how we can get better. So about Supermicro, we are the fastest growing AI OEM, right? I'm being very specific because we are not a contract manufacturer, but if you take a look at it, from 7 billion to 14 billion to now we are targeting around 22 billion on average. Why and how we are able to do that? Because we kind of started looking at what are the missing elements or what are the missing pieces of the puzzle that we need to go after, which basically means that we need to take a look at the deployment scale and the efficiencies that is required, and we started investing in liquid cooling, for example. To test these large AI clusters, we need a lot more power to even validate. So we have 18 megawatts of power in our manufacturing facility to ensure that we are able to test the systems at a system level, at a rack level, or at a cluster level, just to give you some idea. And about 5,000 racks per month is our current capacity, and 2,000 racks per month as a liquid cooling. So you can imagine a big chunk of you are actually using AI infrastructure that is air-cooled. We want to make sure that we continue to support it, and that is part of the reason why the MI350 is announced by AMD, right? And as for the liquid cooling is concerned, we can actually take it to the next level, both in terms of performance and efficiency by bringing MI355. So in a very quick way, the holistic approach is like, we want to make sure when people are spending either 10 million, 100 million, or $1 billion, how do we make sure that money is put to good use very quickly? We want to make sure that the systems get deployed in a very short period of time. People are able to provide services on top of it and start monetizing it. And we are able to do that by working very closely with our technology partners and be able to get there. So what changed? The whole concept is like, okay, with AI, what's next? What I see is that we need to look at slightly different way in terms of how we are able to roll this infrastructure in place. So at a system level, fantastic. But when you're starting to look at the next step, which is at a rack level, especially when it comes to liquid cooling, we need to make sure all the pieces of the puzzle kind of put together, tested, that way there's no finger pointing afterwards. And then comes at a data center level. But when you're starting to look at a data center level, you need to look at what is the power, what is the cooling, and what is the rack, and what is the weight. And there's so many factors that need to be considered. And in many cases, if you're not ready for it, once you start rolling in the systems, you will not be able to bring it up. That's part of the reason why Supermicro also started doing something called like chillers, right? The water coolers. The reason these water towers and coolers are required is make sure that how we speed up these things. But when you start taking a look at what is happening in a larger way, so you have systems that need to be deployed. And the systems can be, standard compute or AI or storage, these kind of things, with some software running, either a software as a service, more like, software-defined storage that is coming into the way. And if it is liquid-cooled, you need to have like a cold plates, and you need to have the pipes that come along with it, the CDM, CDUs, and it's connected to the facility water going all the way out and, connected to the chillers. This basically the whole thing need to be looked through, and not just in terms of deploying the hardware. How do we manage it? This is another important thing because we need to have a single pane of glass. So whether a particular node is failing or a particular GPUs or CPUs or whatever that may be failing, all the way to the water tower, and if something is failing, we would like to have a holistic view and be able to address it. Because any part of the equation, if it is not working, your infrastructure is not productive. I think that's something that all of us know, but just to kind of spell out. So what happens? If you take a look at the compute side of it, whether it's a standard compute or a GPUs or a hybrid systems or storage, and when you take a look at what is going to be used for, a standard HPC environment, is it an AI deployment for inferencing or for training? Is it for enterprise? Each of them have different sets of requirements, which also requires different type of systems to go along with it. But then when you start taking a look at what are the different pieces of the puzzle that is needed at the infrastructure side to deliver, this actually is quite important, because you need to be looking at the whole thing is going to work seamlessly. Because if there are leaks somewhere, then how do you basically handle it? Is it at a node level or is it at a rack level? All these things need to be looked at, and these are the things that we are validating. And same thing goes in terms of networking, because the biggest difficulty that when I started working with enterprise customers was, oh, my networking guy is different. They are using 25 gig or 10 gig and that's it, right? But the AI changed everything, because the amount of money being spent on the AI infrastructure and the efficiencies that you need to get out of it, you need to go very, very quickly in order for us to pull the data out from the GPUs and be able to connect to the rest of the parts. So this is the reason why a lot of stuff goes in, whether it's InfiniBand, whether it's the Ethernet, whether you're using RDMA, whatever it may be. We need to kind of validate all these things together in a cluster level or as well as the system level. And then goes into the entire data center at a rack level, however it goes. So it's too many words, but you get the general idea. When we are looking at the whole AI deployments in future, we cannot just look at a system level. Oh, how much is the GPU? That's not that. It's all about how quickly one can deliver services to their customers. This is the idea, and work backwards. And when you start taking a look at it, then you see maybe I need to look at things to be deployed in a large scale. What are the things that I can do to optimize it? It's just not this bringing the systems, right? So one thing that we have seen, and all of you probably know, liquid is a lot more efficient than air in terms of cooling. So by employing liquid cooling to a large part of the system, when I say large part, I'm not saying everything. The reason being, when you deploy a solution, it also needs to be serviceable and it also needs to be affordable. So by looking at it, the way the CPUs, GPUs, memory, and few other things, in some cases even the power supplies, we are using liquid cooled. This way, we can actually get up to 40% in terms of the efficiency improvement. Similarly, when you are moving the heat outside the chillers, it need to be cooled. So you end up spraying water and few other things, which also consumes a lot of water. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this water usage efficiency. It's a wide range. So what we are able to do is a typical data center that is using chillers, what are the things that we can do in design which reduces the consumption? That's yet another improvement. And the goal of us is eventually get to improving the efficiency to up to 98% on the liquid cooling. So we want to use that to take as much heat out, using liquid, which also reduces the noise levels because the fans don't need to spin that hard. The overall space is also another thing. Think about it, in a standard systems, nobody cares. I mean, you just put Ethernet cable, it's fine. But now the cabling and switching is so expensive. By packing these things in a smaller form factor also reduces the overhead associated with those things. These are the things. Then what are we doing with AMD? That's the most important thing here, right? So in terms of accelerated compute portfolio, we started working with AMD quite a bit from the MI25 and then going all the way to where it is today. So what we have done is we already started seeing some of the people in this room already have received the MI350 systems from Supermicro. So it's a fantastic effort between Supermicro and AMD to make that happen. Thank you. And why and how that happens is because, to start with, I think this thing might help, right? So I'm not the one who made it. AMD gave me this chip, but guess what? It all looks very similar, the MI350, 355 and all. But what we have done is to actually take these systems and build the systems, validate it with everything that actually comes from AMD and be able to deliver that. So we have some other customers, again in this room, they are leading the efforts in efficiency. So they want to have liquid cooling to be deployed at scale. That way they can make two things. Number one, run the business more efficiently, and two, we want to make sure that we are environmental friendly. So those two things are accomplished, right? So this is where the liquid cooling parts is going to come with MI355 in a 4U form factor. But then you might say like, okay, I'm using inferencing and then I have different requirements. Mind you, it's not just the GPU. GPU is the most important thing, but CPU becomes equally important. So we worked with AMD, and one of the things is using the high frequency Turing CPUs as a part of it, so certain workloads can be tremendously accelerated, even the compute alone. And using the PCIe as a form factor, we'll be able to support them as well. And most of them, as I mentioned, compute is a big part of it, and storage is the other part of it. So we work with AMD in bringing pretty much all the different form factors, whether it's a standard 1U, 2U pizza boxes, or whether it's multi-nodes, whether it's something that supports PCIe GPUs or the regular GPUs, air-cooled or liquid-cooled, we have it all. This way, one can standardize on like, okay, I'm doing the pre-processing, I'm doing the training, and I'm doing the inferencing, whatever it may be, we'll be able to work with that. So that's why a broader product portfolio comes into picture, because it's all about optimization. And nothing goes without having a way to support and service. It's never perfect, but we are working towards that. But the idea again here is to bring these kind of solutions along with the right type of service elements. And why I'm saying all this is because these are all the things that are available. These are the things that we are investing in. But that does not mean it is going to be the most ideal for all. But as you start deploying it, you may have your own remote hands. You may manage it yourself. You may have a third party to do the service. All these different parts, or you may just be taking a data center that already has the chillers and everything. Whatever it may be, we can help you being a part of the equation from the very beginning so that we can speed up the overall deployment and put things to service quickly. That is the promise that we are going after. So in order to do that, it just doesn't happen by ourselves. We need to have our close partners, and there's nobody closer than us in this equation, AMD. I want to invite my friend Mark on stage to kind of go over what AMD has been doing together with Supermicro and by themselves in kind of making this better. Thank you.
Well, when I asked for a sample of the MI355X for Advancing AI Day today to carry around, and they said I couldn't have one, now I know who got it. Look, at AMD, we're very excited to be launching the MI350 series today. You heard a lot about it this morning, but I'm especially excited to say, as Vic just mentioned, that starting this month, Supermicro is shipping 350X, 355X, air-cooled and liquid-cooled servers. That's super exciting. Thank you again, and a round of applause again for Supermicro and their commitment. Our commitment, our collaboration with Supermicro extends far back, as Vic mentioned, to the MI25 series. And one of the things we really value about that is their commitment to be first to market with us for our leadership technology. One of the advantages of that for us and for Supermicro is that it allows us to do very early testing. And I'm also very excited to say that all of the performance data that you saw on stage, that Vamsi, that Lisa, that Forrest presented today, all of that was actually tested on Supermicro hardware. So not only are these things shipping, but they've been validated, not just by Supermicro, but by AMD and also third parties. In fact, you'll see available today a third-party benchmarking company, Signal65, that is publishing a report that validates all those claims. So please go and look for that. Okay, so this morning you heard a very eloquent presentation going through our whole AI end-to-end strategy for the data center. I won't attempt to recap that entire thing that took 2 hours this morning, but I'll just do a short recap and put it in the context of our partnership with Supermicro. It starts with the CPU and our EPYC line of CPUs, the most performant server CPUs in the market, full stop, including SKUs that are designed for AI host processors for advanced AI compute nodes. Of course, Instinct, which delivers leadership memory, leadership performance on an annual cadence. You've heard a lot about that today. But also what's critical to our strategy, and you heard a lot about that as well, is our commitment to the open ecosystem and our desire to bring choice to the market and to take advantage of the innovation acceleration capability that comes with an open ecosystem. And that starts with networking. AMD co-founded the Ultra Ethernet Consortium. We co-founded the Ultra Accelerator Link Consortium. Why? It's in an effort to open up the ecosystem for scale up and scale out networking while delivering performance and efficiency. Our Pensando line of products, including the AI NIC, the 400 gig Polara that we had announced last year and took to production early this year, that is an example of how we're realizing this vision for an optimized AI open scale-out infrastructure. That's the first UEC-ready NIC in the market. Now, of course, the open strategy extends into software very importantly. You heard a lot about that as well. ROCm, license-free, royalty-free, fully open. Fully supported on all of the major frameworks, all the major compilers. We're taking advantage of the velocity of innovation that comes with leveraging an open developer ecosystem. You saw a lot of announcements this morning in the context of ROCm. We announced our collaboration on the LLMD, Distributed Inferencing Initiative. You saw an announcement about our ROCm Enterprise AI Stack, which will enable cluster management, which will enable the full application suite on the back end to be readily and more easily created by enterprises that want to extract business value from AI. You heard about the developer cloud, the first ever developer cloud for AMD. All these components are critical to our overall end-to-end strategy. But of course, the way we work with Supermicro is also critical to our strategy. As a go-to-market partner, Supermicro is not just building AI servers with GPUs. They're providing, as Vic just mentioned, the entire set of data center building block solutions that are required, the rack integration that is required, the support and services that are required to take the technology to market quickly and to ensure that business value is extracted from that technology quickly. And you're going to hear from some of Supermicro's customers and our mutual customers after me here today that we'll talk a little bit about how that's happening. Before we close, before I close, just one last comment on A plus A plus A. You heard Vic mention that earlier. The power of combining the technology that AMD is bringing to AI is very impressive. EPYC, I mentioned leadership, world's most performant x86 CPUs. Well, the AI-specific SKUs, the high-frequency SKUs for AI, themselves alone deliver up to a 17% performance boost for AI applications. That's independent of any GPU, just by putting that CPU in the processor, or in the server. Instinct, you heard a lot about that. You benefit from the workload advantages that come from that leadership memory and that leadership compute. And then finally, with Pensando, with the AI NICs, you build on top of that network uptime on the order of a 10% improvement in network availability and on the order of a 15% improvement in performance, so you have reduced response time to queries. I'm also very proud to say, and thank you again to Supermicro, they were the first to qualify an A plus A plus A solution and take it to market so that our customers can benefit from that technology combination. So finally, I've said most of this already, but before I pass it back to Vic, thank you for the partnership. The focus that we've had on time to market has delivered great value to both us, yourselves, and our customers mutually. The 350X and 355, they're shipping air-cooled and DLC today with Supermicro. And again, all the performance data that you saw on stage today was tested on that hardware. And again, Supermicro was the first to qualify A plus A plus A. It's been a great partnership. Look forward to the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vic.
So, we provide solutions. So we have technology partners that are providing technology. Now we need to have customers that actually are using it. And one of the customers I'm very proud of working with for the last several years is not just in terms of CPU or GPU, but overall in terms of providing solutions to our customers. With that, I would like to invite Jason on stage. So thank you.
Thank you, Vic. All right, well, thank you, Vic. Thank you, Supermicro team. So I have the privilege of leading partnerships for Vultr on a global scale, and we're blessed to have Supermicro and AMD as two of the most strategic and important partners in our portfolio. So what I'd like to do today is to spend a few minutes talking about Vultr, the journey that we've been on for a very long period of time, and how we've been supported by AMD and Supermicro along the way. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Vultr, we are today the largest independent global provider of infrastructure as a service solutions on the planet. And we've got a pretty remarkable history that I'd like to share a little bit about. It goes back 24 years. We were founded by two individuals, both named Dave, still very instrumental in our organization today. But they started the company as a dedicated server-hosted provider. And what they were really known for is providing ultra-high performance at a really aggressive price point. As that caught fire in the market, we were attracted a lot of mid-market enterprise-type customers who also shared that need for really high performance and doing it at a fair price point. And in that kind of origin of our business, we attracted a lot of gaming customers, as an example. And so you think about gaming applications, very performance oriented, very latency sensitive. And I share that because that theme has stuck with us as a core tenet of our ecosystem forever, for 24 years. And so for us, our first 12 years, we're delivering, again, those hosted type solutions. So it was a very, very natural transition for us about 12 years ago to get into pure cloud hosted technology. And again, we continued to grow with those solutions by providing really high performance at an aggressive price point. And that brought us to where we are today. So today, we're fortunate to have 32 data center locations around the world in 16 countries. We serve 250,000 customers that are billing with us every single month. That 250,000 customers is spinning up and deploying 3 million instances on a monthly basis. And I share that just to speak to the efficiency of our network and how effectively we can deploy resources for our customers. And again, talking about latency sensitive applications, we have a highly optimized network where we can reach 90% of the global population in under 40 milliseconds. So again, something that we're very, very, very proud of. Now, that 250,000 customers working with us, so what are they consuming? Our portfolio over that course of a couple of decades has continued to expand, not only delivering core cloud compute, but also GPU as a service. We started delivering GPUs as a service a little over 4 years ago. So we were doing it before it was cool. In addition to that, bare metal solutions, storage, networking, sovereign solutions. We have a marketplace full of ecosystem partners to help our customers. And all of that predominantly is powered by AMD and Supermicro. So none of what I've just described would have been possible without those partnerships. Again, going back to the quantity of instances that we're deploying on a monthly basis, none of that would be possible without being really, really easy to use and consume. And so that's been a hallmark of our platform, is making it really simple for consumers to use. And many of those are in the developer community that we share in common with AMD. Again, very important is being able to deliver customers predictable, simple pricing models. So for any of you who have maybe been with a provider and you've watched your invoice continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger every month, we have a potential answer for that. And oftentimes when we do bill analysis comparisons for our end customers, it's not uncommon that we will save someone anywhere from 30 to 60% on their compute invoices on a monthly basis. And then lastly, we really focus heavily on support. So whether it's on the pre-sale side of things, helping our customers architect and design the right technology and solution for their business, or whether it's post-sale to help our customers with a product roadmap, future needs, we want to make sure that we have named account representation with our customers all the way through their journey with Vultr. And lastly, this also is very important and a big differentiator for us, particularly in the Tier 2 CSP space. So, being around for 24 years has afforded us the opportunity, and it's given us a really long runway to build an exceptional compliance posture. And so whether it's HIPAA, SOC 2, PCI, international certifications, GDPR, MITRE, close to having FedRAMP certification later this year, state level certifications. It's really critical to certain enterprise vertical markets, whether you're in FSI, healthcare, government, et cetera. Now, again, none of that success that we've been fortunate to have over the last couple decades would have been possible without best-in-class technology partners. Again, Supermicro and AMD have helped us stay on that leading edge, that bleeding edge, so we are always competitive in the market, so our customers have the tools that they need to be effective in their business. And as Lisa talked about this morning, the pace of innovation right now is unlike anything that we've ever seen. And for us as a CSP, it is really hard to keep up with. And that's where Supermicro provides us a ton of value, is they help us stay on the front edge of that curve and be able to deliver the latest, greatest technology, the latest solutions, and be first to market. So, as an example, we were one of the very first to market with MI300X, one of the first to market with MI325X. We will be one of the first to market on the planet with MI355X the end of July. Yeah, we're super, super excited about it. And so, again, it is a competitive space. It is highly complex technology that we are dealing with. And as much as I've bragged about our success, it's not all like rainbows and unicorns. There are challenges, there are problems, there are headwinds that we faced. And, to me, that's the true test of a partnership, is when things maybe aren't going exactly right. And that's where we've also been really fortunate to have Supermicro at our side, helping us through those challenges to make sure that ultimately what we are delivering to our customers meets their expectations, meets the SLAs that we're obligated to. And so for that, again, we're really, really thankful for that partnership. And again, without great support, it doesn't matter how great the technology is if it's not really well supported. So again, thank you, Vic and team, and thank you, AMD.
Thanks. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Vic.
So technology and technologists, when they become the CEOs of companies, and then when they start something new, you can see a totally different vibe. With that, I want to kind of bring our very close friend, Derek Horton, who is kind of leading some of these efforts. I let him kind of speak for himself. I don't want to kind of steal a thunder. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Vic. All right. My name is Derek. I am the co-founder and CEO of TensorWave. And TensorWave is a little bit different from your general purpose cloud provider. We don't do CPU cloud. We don't do virtual machines, right? We don't do historically general purpose cloud offerings or workloads. What we do is we focus on building large scale GPU clusters specifically for AI. And we're a little unique even in that field because we are the world's only AMD exclusive cloud provider. So we believe that focus is very important in order to offer the best experience for our customers. And so we focus very closely on AMD and Supermicro in our deployments. And I'm excited to announce today that we have just deployed the world's first and largest all liquid-cooled MI325 AMD cluster. And I want to spend some time talking about this cluster today. Very exciting, a lot of cool technical details. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the purpose of the cluster. And the purpose of this cluster is really to showcase to the world, to enterprise, and to end customers what AMD can do at scale. And this cluster is really optimized for training at scale. Now, of course, we can do inference as well. We have a lot of inference customers, but this cluster is really built and optimized for training at scale on AMD. So I have some early pictures here during the build process. It's come a long way since this, but this cluster is actually deployed in Arizona in the United States, and this is 8,192 MI325X, 100% liquid cooled. So If you look here at the rack architectures, you can see each one of these racks has 8 Supermicro systems. These are 4U systems with 8 GPUs in them, 100% liquid cooled. So we get 64 GPUs per rack. And then on the other side of these things, we have this technology called rear door heat exchangers. And what this does is actually really cool for those of you that haven't had the pleasure of seeing one of these operate in person. The air coming out of this rack, the power density is incredibly high. So we have 100 to 120 kW per rack here. The air coming out of the back of that rack is actually cold, right? And the room environment is cold. And it's a little jarring if you've been in traditional data centers because you expect this is going to be loud and noisy and it's going to be really hot. But that's not the case here. We actually operate these data centers without a hot aisle, right? Because the air coming out of the back of the racks is cold. And this architecture allows us to achieve extremely high density, which has follow-on impacts on network optimization and ultimately results in a better experience for the end customer. So we're very excited to announce this, and this is really the first big step towards showcasing AMD training performance at scale. We are also doing a much larger MI355X cluster that we'll be launching in a couple of months. So we're very excited about that as well. I also wanted to take a minute to showcase a real-world customer use case that was actually done on this cluster, this MI325 cluster. One of our customers, Higgsfield, they are a AI video generation platform. They have a really cool video playing out in the AI Hub. If you haven't seen it yet, I would recommend you check it out. Very cool stuff, and they are early adopters of AMD and this cluster. So our MI325s are available today. And in addition to getting access to the GPUs, when you come to TensorWave, you also get world-class support, right? And we believe that's very important. Like I said at the beginning, focus is key. And so we focus all of our efforts on making sure that we're optimizing for AMD and making sure that the experience we provide to the end customers is as good as possible and as seamless as possible. So especially for enterprise customers that may just be getting into AI, or they may be transitioning from NVIDIA to AMD, we provide that extra support to make sure that that experience is as seamless as possible. So check us out and let us know if you need some GPUs.
Thanks, Derek. So as you can imagine, we have our partners who are actually taking these systems and in a different level, at a rack level or at a data center level, using their own, let's say, radar heat exchangers or whatnot. Whatever it might be, the goal of us is to speed up the deployment, provide the most efficient infrastructure as quickly as possible so one can actually put that money for good use. And in case if you haven't already captured, MI350X as well as MI355 based systems that we have it ready. And some of our customers are adopting it quickly, in June, July, August timeframes. So depending on what your needs are, and please do reach out to us. Again, it's not going to be easy for many customers to just take and adopt it. This is where we can talk to you and we can work with your data centers to see what might work for you and how we can help you to speed up. And this is what I wanted to kind of convey. Thank you very much for your time.